Hey, I'm Ron from Ron's World, and this is the Rockstar Paint class. Today we're going to be painting a composition I call My Frankenstein. It's a tribute to legendary rocker Alice Cooper. So before we get started, I just want to go over a couple things. Today we're going to be painting with Alpha 6 acrylic paint. I use this paint religiously. It's really great. You guys have it in the kit that was sent to you before you downloaded the video here, so you'll appreciate how the liquid acrylic flows really nice on the canvas, which is the reason I use it a lot. What you're going to want to get is a plate. All right, I used an actual ceramic plate, but a paper plate works just as fine to put a little bit of paint on there, so you use that as your palette. We're going to need a little bit of water in a cup to rinse our brush and clean it off as we go along. And then some paper towels or napkins just to wipe that extra paint off the brush and to dry out the brush. So once you get all that set up, we'll be ready to go. A couple things. The two brushes that are in your kit, one's a wedge brush. I use this quite a bit, and then I go back with the fine brush, and we'll use that for the finer details as we start working on the painting. Feel free to use either brush as you want. You don't have to follow with me on this. I want to also encourage everybody to, paint as you want. You can follow me. Obviously, you're going to reference the portrait that I gave you. I gave a foundation, for Alice Cooper here that'll help you along. But you can feel free to use any colors you want, any methods you want. The stuff that we're going to be doing is sort of abstract, a little impressionistic. So there's a lot of weird color, so to speak, on his face. Nothing is gospel here. You can do it however you want. Paint it however you feel that it looks best for you. Okay, the way I did it is just the way I thought, but there's 50 different ways we could paint this today. So there's no rules when it comes to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the wedge brush, and I'm going to go from my lighter colors to my darker colors. And then as we paint along, you'll see that sometimes the paint doesn't always cover the canvas, and I'll do that on purpose because we're going to do a second, a third, and a fourth pass if we need to of the color. So if you don't get that hard, that really vibrant color, don't worry about it because we're going to go back or we're going to do it again. So I don't use a lot of paint, little paint on the brush. All right, and that'll allow me to kind of sketch where I want that color to be, and it also will let the paint dry a lot quicker. Okay, if you use a lot of paint on the canvas at first, it's going to be a longer time to dry, and as we go and touch other colors, you're going to smear that. Okay, and that's really not what we're looking to do for this. So I would suggest starting out like this with a little bit of paint on the brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carve in some of my yellows. So up top here, I'm going to give a little indication of yellow, all right? And I'm not afraid to go on top of the black. I'd rather cover the black. If you've painted with me before, you'll know that. And then what I do is at the end, I go back and I actually put a black on the canvas, and that'll cover up where I've gone over the black. But I want to keep that color flowing over top there as opposed to leaving any white edges. So I'm going to put that right over the black so the two colors touch, so to speak. All right, and as you're painting this, what you're going to want to do is keep notice on the reference picture that you have of the final portrait that we did of Alice. All right, there's going to be some white spots on his face. I want to leave those white because those are going to show the highlights, and that's really going to define the bone structure of his face, and that makes it unique to him. Okay, otherwise it just starts to look like any other human, quite frankly. So you'll notice we're going to leave that white down the center of his nose. Okay, so I want to keep that highlight there, and I'm going to run right around the bottom here with the yellow, a little heavier on that side. All right, so I'm going to create that little pattern there for his nose, and I'm going to keep that white in the middle. And as the paint leaves the brush, you see how I'm actually scraping at it? That's going to feather that paint a little bit and give you a little bit of a softer edge. Right, if you can see how that looks there. All right, a little more paint. I'm going to go heavier on this side. This is the shadow side of his nose. All right, so I want to come down here and fatten that portion up, and then literally go right over that nostril. Okay, right to the corner here. All right, and you see I'm using the side of my paintbrush, and I'm just pushing that color into the canvas. You can almost hear how it's scratching away at it. All right, so we're heavier on that side because that's where the shadow side is of his face. And we're going to go in a bit and put a little more color in that. But I want to start off with the foundation of yellow. All right, this whole section here, I'm going to paint that yellow as well. All right, I'll bring that right down into where I've got the black line for the jowl part of his face over there. We'll fill that in as well. And again, I'm not afraid to go over the black. You can see I'm almost making a little bit of a mess out of it. And that's fine because I'm going to clean that up at the end. All right, I'm going to put some yellow over this lip. And again, notice the white spot. So I'm going to come up about an inch off of this section here. All right, and then I'm going to stop that paint there. All right, then I'm going to continue on where that little divot is on his top lip under his nose. We've got a black line there. Let's get some color on that line as well. Now, leave me a little bit of white over there. Let's do this. Almost like that, okay? Continuing that there. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to complete this line. You see that the dry brush allows me almost to sketch like a pencil. Whereas if I go a little heavier, I can't pull it back. So right now there's just a little bit of paint, and when I find out exactly where I want it, then I'll go in and I'll go heavier with that, and I can fill that in. See, that's part of the technique, is you don't want to commit too much until you actually know that's what you want. You know, it's a lot easier to continue putting paint on a canvas than it is to taking it off. All right, so you start to look something like that. Again, keep that white on the nose and keep those white sections above the lip. It's almost like you've made a little M here, all right, out of the yellow, keeping that white exposed. All right, those are highlights and we want to keep them there. All right, moving on. The little black piece on your canvas to show the shadow under his lip. I'm going to hit that with a little bit of yellow and make the line a little longer. All right, let's not fill in the bottom lip yet. We're going to keep that because that's going to be a different color. But I want to just indicate that there's a shadow under here. All right, and I'll come and I'll bring that around this part of his chin. All right to that little divot on his chin, we're going to fill that in there. See, I've made a little bit of a curve because think about it, the ball of his chin there's a bone there, and that's actually round. So we don't want to go straight down because that's not how the light would reflect on that. All right, a little bit more paint underneath the chin there. And then I'm going to come over here where that line is. And I'm going to run a little bit of yellow right around the rim of the chin where it meets the black. All right, a little more here. All right, something like that. So why don't we take a second? I'll pause for a minute and you guys can catch up to how that looks. So keep painting till we get to that point, and then I'll come back in a minute and we'll continue on with some yellow. All right, so we're back. Moving on, we're going to continue with the yellow, and that little break in the action there gave this a little bit of time to dry. Okay, so as you move your hand across there, you're not smearing, the paint as you go. So you're going to want to take your time with it. If the canvas is completely wet at all times, it's going to be a little bit of a problem because all you're going to do is push that paint around. So we want to give it a little bit of time to set up. All right, so I'm going to come up top here, and I'm going to fill this in with yellow. All right, I'm using a lot of yellow as our base color because all the other colors that we use will go over it kind of nicely. So it's good to have a nice solid color as a base, and it gives a good foundation for us. All right, so let's just paint that all in yellow up there. All right, and bring it down right around the side of his eyes. And again, my technique is I'm using the side of this brush and I'm just pushing the paint onto the canvas. All right, that allows me to kind of sketch with it, and that's how I prefer to do it. Okay. Now, what we're going to want to do here is I want to create the line on his cheek. Okay, he's got a very high cheekbone. All right, so you can see where the black is over here. It's about a little over a quarter of the way down on his face. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to run a little bit of a curved line right here. And let's end it almost right where that little piece of makeup line comes. Right about there. Okay? All right, and as a reference point now, I'm going to take it right from there and I'm going to bring this right down just about to the middle of that makeup line. All right, again, I'm leaving that little bit of white there. Okay, you're going to want to keep that white because there's a highlight on his cheek right there. I want to keep that. So don't go touching these two colors here. We're going to leave a little bit of white in between. All right, and now what I'll do is I'll come over right along that run the line of his cheek where the black is, and I'm going to just take yellow all the way around that. All right, and that'll give us a nice little shadow on the side of his face. All right, let's heavy that up a little bit there. Okay, so you see what that is? Just a little bit, almost like a backwards number 7 if you think about it. All right, and then straight down. All right, get a little more paint. I want to get a little color on this top eyelid. We're going to make that yellow as well. All right. Put some paint on him. Okay. Keeping with our yellow. Now you'll notice I like to actually paint color over top of the black. So what looks like on the reference painting that your guys are looking at, the final product, it looks like it's green, but it's not. It's actually yellow over top the black. And the black comes through a bit to make the yellow dirty, and it appears to be green. So for the hair, all right, I'm just going to put some wisps of color into the hair, all right, pushing away from his face towards the outside of the canvas. All right, and you can hear how dry the paint is on the brush. All right, and that's allowing that black canvas to come through. These aren't real heavy strokes of paint, and that'll give a nice feathered look like that. That's going to indicate hair for us. All right, we get a couple little pieces along there. Think about it. He's got long hair. How that hair would flow. So that's how you want to make these marks. You know, they're not perfect, you know, but they flow in the direction his hair would be flowing. All right, we'll give a couple indications of those all the way around the outside here. And there'll be more color as well, but that's going to start to shape the hair for us. All right, a little more down here. And again, don't get real technical with it, all right? We're just indicating there's hair there. So you can put as little or as much as you like, but I don't like to go crazy because he has dark hair and I want to keep that hair, that black of that canvas coming through. All right, let me a little more up there. I think that works for me. Okay, and while we're down here, he's got all this stuff going on down where his neck and his shirt are. And again, this is just, I've indicated just random shapes. I just like to make a little bit of a, almost like an abstract pattern there. And I mean, if we put some color in, it'll allow the color to flow around the canvas. The one thing we don't want to do is isolate color in one particular spot. So by putting color down here, it makes for a nicer composition, that you have an overall mixture of color, or, you know, evenly spread around the canvas. So I'm just going to color these pieces in down here. And again, there's no rhyme or reason to what this is, so don't get real technical with it. All right, we'll just color it in for now. And we'll come back and we'll indicate that there's something there with other color in a bit. Maybe we'll put some over here too. Let's get some over there. Okay. And then the last thing I want to do with yellow is come up to where his hat is. So he's wearing a top hat. That white line indicates where the rim of his hat is. So what I want to do is we're going to put some color in there, and I want to basically indicate where the hat stops and starts. So here's the side of his face. We've indicated the hair. So let's go up to about here and put a line like this, all right? That's where the one side of the hat's going to be. And then let's come in about 2 inches, or about an inch, inch and a half off of that white line there. And let's put another line there like that, all right? That'll indicate the top section of his hat. That's where the hat stops, but the brim comes out further. So let's keep that there like that for now, all right, as our reference point. Okay. All right. So that's how we should be looking as with yellow. All right. We're gonna leave that for yellow for now. We're gonna go on to the next color. So what I want to do is I'm gonna take my paintbrush. I'm not gonna clean it. All right. So I'm just gonna take the paper towel that you've got and just pull that color off the brush. All right, and just dry it off. There's no reason to wash the brush because the color we're using next is orange, and yellow and orange complement each other. So there's no reason to worry about cleaning that off. So I'll just go ahead and get that paint off there. If a little bit's on there, is no big deal. So let's pick up a little bit of orange. All right, and we'll start over here. This section here that we've got yellow, I'm going to go over top that yellow with orange. And you'll notice the orange doesn't cover very well. It's going to be kind of streaky, and that's fine. I kind of like that. It allows the yellow color to creep on through. All right, so you've almost got a yellowy orange, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. All right, I'm going to come over here now where that little line is next to his upper lip. And I'm going to give an indication that there's some orange in that. Again, just a little bit of it. All right, separates the top part of his mouth from that section of cheek. Okay? Let's bring that down around that chin here. All right, a little bit of line like that. All right, this section up here by his nose, I want to smear a little bit of orange in there, okay? Remember, I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, so it'll really kind of blend in. If you've got a lot of paint on the brush, it's going to be really heavy, and you're not going to get that blend look. So try to keep a little bit of that paint, make sure it goes on a little bit dry, and that'll allow the orange, or the yellow to come through the orange. All right, and bring that all the way around the bottom of his nose. Just kind of run around the rim of his nose a bit. All right? So we'll just blend that in a tiny bit there. All right, and you can see I'm not worried about going over the black because I'm going to fix that afterwards. Okay? Now the same thing down the other side where we have the shadow side of his nose. I want to make that shadow a little more pronounced. So I'm going to start in the corner of the eye. And right on the line that I had the yellow, I'm going to run this orange right down to about there. Okay, give me a little bit of space from the bottom part of his nostril. We're going to stop that. And then I'm going to fill that in this way. All right, because that nostril is technically in shadow. Okay, and I want to fill that in. All right, so we're going to color that in just like that. Pushing the orange into the canvas. We'll fatten up that shadow a little bit. All right, so you've made it heavier at the bottom of his nose and kept it skinnier going up to his eye. Okay? Corner of his eye will get a little bit of a shadow there. But let's not cover over top of all the yellow that we put on there. It'll just give us a little hint. All right, we'll put some orange up here. All right, you can see I'm letting that yellow come through. So I'm just putting a little bit on there, and that's giving me that blended look. And again, from really close, you might not notice it. So step back a couple feet, and you can see where that starts to blend, and you're gonna notice the difference. You're not supposed to look at art right up on top of the canvas. So every once in a while, step back and take a look at where you are. It'll help you navigate your way through this. All right. We're going to put some orange up here now over top of that yellow. All right, and again, a little bit of color on the brush and smear it into the yellow. All right, it looks like it's making a mess, but this is the exact thing we want to have happen here. And we'll bring that all the way down on top of the yellow we did before. All right, that'll give us a shadow against the black on his face. All right, all the way down. And then we'll strengthen that yellow line up for his cheek there. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of orange over here in the corner. This is where the shadow, where the corner of his mouth would be. All right, I want to feather that in there. little bit of a shadow here as well. All right, you can see how just a little bit of paint blends over top of that yellow, and you're not really trying to make it perfectly smooth. You want it to be a little rough. That's fine. Okay, something like that. So what I'll do now is I'll let this sit for a second, all right, and I'll let you guys catch up, okay, where the orange is, and I'll take a little bit of break, and you guys can continue on with that, and I'll be back in a second, and we're going to continue with orange. All right, so we're back. We're going to continue on with the orange, okay, and I'm going to concentrate a little more on the mouth section here. So where we put that yellow underneath the lip, I'm going to color some of this in now, and I'm going to come over into this corner a little heavier. All right, he's got some shadow going on there, so I want to indicate that. And then I'm going to bring it all the way around. So I'm going to define the bottom part of that lip. All right, and we'll bring that into this corner as well, because there's some shadow going on there as well. All right, so let's get that filled in there. Okay, I'm going to come down right underneath that black line for his lip there, and I'm going to put some color on that. And again, I want to leave a little bit of white in the bottom lip here because there's a highlight there, and I don't want to paint that over. All right, so if I just come like this, we'll color in that side, but leave that little section of white right there. All right, and that'll give a nice highlight on the bottom part of his lip. Okay, maybe heavy this up a tiny bit here where the black line for his mouth, or his actual the line for his mouth. Make that a little darker. I'll put a little bit of color up there. Okay. All right. I'm going to strengthen this line up here. All right. I want to take this. I'm going to come a little bit darker over top that yellow we did there to indicate the shadow on his face. Something like that. All right. All right, let's go down here. Remember I told you he's got these little nothingness going on? Let's put some color down there. So I'll go over top of that with the orange. Smooth it out a little bit. I'll paint that one as well. All right, I'm just moving the orange around. All right, just like we did the yellow in the hair before, I'm going to put a little bit more color. So let's add some orange to it. And again, this is very, very dry, and I'm letting that color, that black, the black of that canvas come through, just to show that he's got some hair. A couple little wisps of color. That's all it is. Maybe a little more right here. Okay, so we're starting to build the structure of his face with these colors. All right, so these are just the indications where there's sections of color going on. All right, and we can come back, or we can always add to it. So it's easier to add to this than it is to take it away. So keep it simple for the time being, and we can continue to go back and we'll build on it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some water on my brush because it's getting a little dry. All right, and I don't need to clean it off completely. A little bit of water on there to loosen up the paint. All right, and then I'm going to grab some red. All right, now the red will go on pretty bold, so again, let's use it sparingly till we know it's exactly where we want it. So I'm going to come up over here, and I'm just going to dab and work that into the orange and the yellow. All right, I kind of want that little bit of that messy random pattern as opposed to being real painterly with it. All right, I'm going to push that into here. I'll bring it down a little bit along that cheek line there in his hair. All right, you see what I did? It's almost just little random messiness of it. All right, there's not a lot of structure to it. I want to keep it that way. All right, and I'm going to take a little bit and I'm going to creep it down into that line we made for his cheek as well. And again, if you've got too much paint on the brush, wipe some of it off. All right, and then you can go back and you can smear a little more of that in. You know, that'll give you that blended look. But if there's too much paint on the brush, you're not going to be able to do it. So start off slower, and then we can always add. All right, let's fatten that up a bit there, a little more red. All right, something like that. I think I'll bring a little more up to over the eyebrow, into that section up there. All right, and you see what I'm doing is I'm just basically putting a little bit of color on the canvas, and then I'm just pushing the red around. All right, and it gives it that nice little random pattern up there, but it indicates color and texture, and that's exactly what we're looking to do. Okay, let's come down here. A little bit hard for me to get the angle, but let's put some red in the corner of the mouth. All right, that corner there. And then I'm going to come under this, where this lip is here, put a little bit of it there. Now, as we're starting to do this, if you want, you can use the finer brush as well. It'll take you a little longer, but you can pause the video and continue on. All right, I like to use the heavier brush, and then with the finer brush, I'll go in, I'll put detail in. But I like the heavier brush for these things. But if you're more comfortable with the fine brush, use the fine brush. That's fine as well. All right, this whole section under here in white, I'm going to make this red. So it would be his neck, but Alice has a red neck. There's nothing wrong with that. Alice is a redneck, right? That's kind of funny. Don't tell him I said that. All right, just paint that whole section in there. And I'll go this little piece here. I'll make that red as well. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Now, because the red is so strong, I don't want to use a lot of it in the hair, but I do want to get some in there. So maybe right by that yellow mark, we'll carve a little bit of red there. And how about a little bit there? Just again, just to move the color around a bit. All right, that'll keep that working. Just a little bit of red here. Okay, so I didn't use a lot of red, all right, just a little bit of indication around there. And I can come back and I can always hit more of it, but that'll give me a little bit of an idea. And again, I'm building this as I go, so I don't want to go real heavy in the beginning. So I kind of like how that looks right now, so I want to leave that, and we'll let that red dry. All right, and while that red's drying, let's rinse this brush off, because now we're going to use a completely different color palette. So we don't want red on the brush. So some water, and then just pull the paint off into the paper towel, push it back and forth, and it comes right off. That paint's off. All right, so while the red's drying, I'm going to put a little bit of blue on the brush. All right, and I'm going to come up over top of this eye. We'll start over here. Over top the black, and there's going to be blue up there. So we'll color that in. And you can see again, the blue is going to allow some of that green to or some of the yellow to come through. It's going to look green. That's fine. And I'm on top of the black with that. So the blue on top of the black is really, really pretty. It gives you a nice effect, so we want to put that in there. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing over top that makeup section. I want to get some blue on top of that black as well. Right in the corner there. I got a little bit on that yellow, so I'll just color that in right there. All right, you can see a little bit of blue, not completely covering the black. All right, same thing on the other eye. Now he's got that whole section under here where he has his makeup, and we're going to color that blue. All right, so take it right down to where I gave you the black on the canvas. We're going to color that whole section in blue. All right, bring it right up into the corner. Right up into the corner of his eye. And then complete the line there. See it? All right, we're going to bring it all the way up. I'm going to put some blue on the top of that eyebrow. A little bit over the black, just an indication. And again, when you stand back, that blue looks really cool over top of that black. You're going to like how that looks. All right, now where we started the hat on top, okay, so this is what I want to do. I don't want to paint the hat entirely blue. I want to leave the black. So a little bit of blue on the brush, and I'm going to start here in the middle. Okay, put some blue on the canvas, and then right down to our white line, I'm going to, look, just push that paint across until there's almost no more paint on the brush. Let's go this way with it. All right, I'm not completely covering the canvas. You can see black through. All right, and just drain all that paint off the brush until there's nothing left. All right, see what it is? It gives you a nice feathered look. All right, there's almost no paint on the brush anymore, and I'm just pushing that into that canvas and letting it blend. Okay? Right up against the yellow here, I want a little heavier blue, so I'll just put a little bit more there. Same thing like we did with the hair before. I want to put some blue in the hair, the same way you did the texture with the yellow and the orange to indicate hair. Put some blue in there now too. And again, it'll give you a little bit of a green tint. That's fine. Not a lot, but remember we don't want to keep one isolated color anywhere. So I want to push that color around the canvas. So indicate other parts of blue. All right, something like that. All right, so while that's drying for me, I'll let you guys sit for a second. You can catch up with the blue. And again, don't go overboard with it. We can always go back and add more. Let what you have on the canvas dry. And when we come back, we'll put our next color on. I think we'll go to purple for next. So we'll give it a second. I'll be back in a minute. All right, so now we're back. That blue should be fairly dry. All right, and I cleaned the brush off with blue. Because the paint was getting a little thick for me, so you might want to get some water on that. All right, I'm going to put some purple on there. So the purple I like to use as an accent color. All right, and I go over the whites and the black with it. So that white line that I left for his hat, run over that with a little line of purple. All right, that'll just give that some character. You know, and again, don't be afraid to go over the black with it. It looks pretty cool. Okay. And again, purple over top the black looks very cool, so we can throw some of that over top that eye as well. All right, I'm going to come in with a little bit of purple off of that black there, and that's going to give me a shadow in the yellow. All right, right around the rim of his face there. All right, you'll notice the purple's very, very translucent, and that's why I like it for stuff like this, because you can indicate where you want a shadow, but it doesn't come overpowering. All right, little shadow next to the nose there. All right, we'll do the same thing on this side. Just a little line of purple there in the corner. Bring it down the bridge of his nose. Okay, little indication there. I'm going to do the same thing over here right on top of where that nostril would be, just to make it a little dirty, show that there's a shadow there as well. Not a lot of paint. Remember, we're not using a lot of paint. We'll come into the corner here. Same thing. You see, once I put the paint on the canvas, then I just let the brush do the work and push it around. All right, pull that color into the other colors. All right, even down bottom here. A little bit of purple. All right, we'll do the same thing on this side. Just darken this area up. I'm going to come down here now where I stopped the red. Let's put some purple down here over top the white. And blend that right into the red. Kind of cool. And again, you'll see it doesn't cover that much. That's fine. We'll go over it twice later, and that'll give us a little more opaqueness over top of that. Okay. Some purple in that hair, and you won't see it a lot at first, but it'll be there. All right. Some purple there, which is kind of cool. All right. Again, get some of that off the brush, and I just want to blend a little more in the corners here. And I'm still using the big brush. Again, if you guys are more comfortable with that fine brush, you can use the fine brush. But I'm going to go to my fine brush in a second. I just want to block some of this color in with this with the heavier brush. I kind of want this a little darker up there, so I'm going to darken that up with the purple. Get a little bit of paint on there. And I'll go and I'll dab some of that color in there, and that'll just push that area back a little bit for me. It's a little too bright. I want to bring that up here too. Let's do that. All right, and it just pushes that little area back for me a bit. It was a little too bright. All right, something like that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to rinse this brush off now. We'll clean him up, let him sit for a minute, and then I'm going to get my finer brush out. So let's make sure you got all the paint off your heavier brush, because we don't want that to harden on there while we're using this brush. All right, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start back in the original colors we started with, yellow. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on this brush. All right, and I'm going to just come into some of the areas that I want to strengthen up. And this is where you're going to get a little more detail. All right, get some paint on the brush. The yellow will go over top the orange. It'll blend, it'll smooth everything out as well. So if you've got areas that you thought you maybe went a little bit heavier on the other colors, now's your chance to put some yellow over top of that, and it'll blend for you. It'll come out really pretty. All right, I'm going to go over that lip a bit. Same thing on this side. I want to soften that up a little bit there. So I'll just push that into that canvas. All right, down the side of his nose. Just a tiny bit. All right, one other thing I want to do now, again, not a lot of color on the brush, but in the corner of this eye, I'm going to indicate some color here. And just like we did the hat with the blue, just push it around, just a hint, right in the corner of the eye, and that'll give that eye a little bit of shadow. All right, just so it's not stark white in that eyeball there. All right, see, it was right in the corner of his eye. We just had a little bit of color. All right, same thing around these edges. I'm just fattening up the yellow a little bit, going over where I had the other colors. I'm going to put the yellow on top of it maybe, and that'll soften that edge up. All right, right on this side here too, fatten that up a bit. So you're just feathering the edges. That's all you're doing. You know, giving a little more texture to it. Maybe covering a little bit more of the white, but not a lot. Okay, just see what I did? Just a little bit indication more yellow. That's all it is. So now also I want to get some yellow up in the top of his hat up there. So in the picture that we referenced, that you guys see, the completed one, he looks like he's got rivets in his hat. So let's do this. Let's go and we'll just put a little couple dots to indicate where those rivets are going to be. All right, how about that? We'll do 2 rows. Okay, something like that. We'll come back and we'll play with those in a bit, but that's just going to indicate where those rivets are. I want to get a little more color up there, so let's smear that in. How's that? All right. A little bit of yellow here. Okay. All right, so what I want to do now, so I'm just going to wipe that paint off the brush. I'm not cleaning it. I'm going to get my orange. All right, that was the second color we used. So we'll put some orange in there now. And now in this eye, keeping the color part of his eye, Alice has blue eyes. So I want to leave that because we're going to hit that in blue. But I'm going to fill this in with the fine brush. This section here I want to color in orange. So I left this for the finer brush because I didn't think I'd be able to do it with the heavier brush. So we'll just fill this area in. All right, right up into the corner there. Okay, something like this. Let me fill that section there. Yep. And then we'll go back and we'll paint that blue in a minute. But I want to color that section of his eye in. Okay, still with my fine brush. We're going to add a little bit more orange into this eyelid here. Strengthen that line up. And then right a little rim around the bottom here, I'm just going to put a little bit of orange underneath. You know, almost like he's got eyeliner, orange eyeliner. Right atop that black line, give a rim of orange right atop that line. All right, I'm going to come fill, I left a little bit of a gap here, so now with my fine brush I can go and I can fill that in. And the same way we did the yellow, let's go back and just clean up some of that orange. All right, it's a lot easier with the finer brush to clean up the edges. So that's what I want to do. I want to go in and I want to basically strengthen up some of that orange. And yours will be a little different than mine. You might have put a little more paint on sections than I did. So just follow along, and then where you need a little more, you put a little more. So it'll help that color out a bit. So let's get a little more paint on the canvas now that we know where we want it. I'm going to heavy up the paint on that lip too. Mine was a little faint, so I want to strengthen that as well. Still keeping that highlight in the middle though, we don't want to cover that. Alright, down here as well, right? It went on a little streaky, so now's the time to cover it up. Again, I'm not worried about the black because I'm going to go over with black in a few minutes and fix that. Maybe strengthen up some of that orange in the hair, make it a little more pronounced. All right, something like that. A little bit here. Where there's a shadow, always a shadow under the nose, so we kind of want to make sure we indicate that. Alright, so let's move that on. So I'm going to rinse the brush off. Alright, so again, we've got two colors there that you're doing a little bit of cleanup with, the yellow and the orange. So take your time, work that in for a bit. Alright, I'll give you a little bit of time to to correct some of the stuff with that, and we'll be back in a minute, and we're going to go into the purples and the blues. All right, I'll be back. All right, so now that that's dried, I'm going to come back with my fine brush. I'm going to hit a little bit more purple. All right, again, not a lot of paint. What I want to do is I want to darken this area up where we put the orange on his eye. All right, I don't want that so bright, so I'm going to throw some purple on top of that. All right, not a lot, and I don't have to cover all of it, but just enough to push it back a little bit. Okay, right along where the black is, I'm going to throw a little bit of purple on that. All right, some purple up here, smooth over those edges a bit. And then down here in the mouth, I need mine to be a little darker here. Now again, you might have put enough purple there to make that look, that little shadow there. I don't have it on mine, so I want to add it. But if you have it on yours, it's fine. Keep it. All right, I'll do the same on the other side. All right, push that back a little bit and carry that up in there. Okay, just a hint of it. All right, and again up top over here where I've got a little bit of, looks like a little bit of white space, I want to push that back with some purple, maybe a little bit on that eyelid. And then where we put the yellow in the corner of the eye, I'm going to hit a little bit of purple there too. That'll darken that up for me. All right, pushed it in so right in the corner of his eye, just to give that little effect there. Okay. Now, no need to clean the brush. Just dry. If you have excess purple on, just dry it off. All right, and I'm going to put some blue on here, and now I'm going to fill in that color here for his eye. All right, wherever that white area was, now we're going to go fill that in with blue. So this is the actual color of his eye. That's going to be blue. And keep it nice and round. Sort of like a half circle there. All right, put that in there. We'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, complete the circle. All the way down. You can fill it in because we're going to go back with black and fix it. All right, so make sure it's a round circle. All right, everybody's got round eyes. We want Alice to have round eyes. Okay, something like that. All right, touching up some blue. Up into the corner there. All right, I think I'm liking the blue. Not a lot of blue to touch up. All right, maybe a little bit in the hair, a little more in the hair up top. All right, but I'm digging the blue. I think the blue is looking good. So if you don't have to fix too much on the blue, don't worry about it. We'll rinse that off. All right, and then I want to take a little bit of red, and I just want to go punch some of those reds up a bit. So again, remember I told you if you layer it, the red it'll be a stronger color. So now's a chance where you put it on before, just go over top of it. It makes the red pop that much more. All right, you won't see through it as much. And we don't have a lot of red, but the areas that are red, I want to make sure they're pretty bright red. So let's make sure they're good. All right, I'm gonna take this and run some red underneath that lip there. That's kind of nice, and then we'll hit that with black. So if you want, the black line that separates his lips there, where his mouth is, you could throw some red on that. All right, I think that's kind of cool. Something like that. And then I just want to fix some of this red down here that I can still see it's streaky. I want to go ahead and fix that. All right, that's kind of cool. All right, so again, this is your time to clean up. Any areas on the canvas that you want to clean up, go ahead and clean up with the colors. And then the ultimate cleanup is coming now. We're going to use black. All right, so when I start with the black, I want to go in and I want to tighten up all those lines that I kind of overshot earlier. Remember I told you I don't care if I get color on the black? Well, that's because I'm going to come in now with black and I'm going to bring them back. So you want to basically restore the blacks on the canvas that I gave you. All right, so wherever you put color on top of the black, now's the time to clean it up. All right, all those lines that I had on the original canvas, you want to see those lines again. Under his nose, I had a lot where I have paint on it. I want to paint it black. All right, fill it right back in again. All the little lines, all the little subtleties, bring them back with the fine brush. All right, the nose is a real important part because it's a real heavy shadow under there. So you're going to want to have all that in there. All right, where the makeup line is, that was black. So don't cover the blue you put on there, but bring back your edges and your lines so we can see them. All right, especially when we come up into the eyes, bring those blacks back. All right, where you put the blue on his eye, I want to see a little bit more defined, so I'm going to run a black line around that. All right, see where it is, where you put the blue? Let's add some black to that. Okay, that'll define the eye, the color in the eye a little better. All right, just continue to clean it up. All right, all along the chin line is important as well. You want to bring that line back. It's these little characteristics, these subtle characteristics, that really distinguish who he is. So we want to make sure they're visible and they're in there. All right, those little lines on his face, we're going to paint them back in as well. All right, what I want to do too is I want to bring back that very thin upper lip line. But I want to see it again because I lost it with the color. All right, so you want to see he does have an upper lip. It's a very thin one, but it's there. All right, so we want to indicate that. All right, something like that. I had a little bit of black here. Let's bring that back. All right, moving on to the other eye. Now this eye, we actually have a pupil in the middle. So let's bring that black dot back. And like we did on the other one, let's run a little black line around the outside of that blue. All right, really makes that eye stand out. All right, that black line that was there where his eyelashes are, I want to bring that back as well because I kind of lost that. You know, again, if I'm going a little fast, you can always slow this up or stop it and rewatch it again. And yours is going to be slightly different than mine because this is our cleanup. So I don't know how much paint you might have had over top of the areas. Maybe you didn't have a lot of paint. So at that point, you could just be watching for following along, or you could actually be cleaning up. It's really depending on how you did it, and I can't see that from where I am. So everybody's will be a little different. All right, the black in the hair, all right, I want to kind of bring that back as well. Some black hairlines. All right, I'll clean up down here. So I got a lot of orange on this black here. I want to definitely clean that up. That looks funny. Okay, so also now where we put the little yellow dots, let's put some black alongside of those. Don't cover them, but a little bit of black on the right side of them will indicate that there's a shadow. So it makes them look a little bigger than they are. Once we've got all the blacks cleaned up, all right, I think I'm pretty close on mine. All right, last thing we're going to do, let's rinse that off. All right, and get it pretty good and clean this time. All right, because I'm gonna go to white. We want to keep the white as pure as we can. And we don't have a lot of white, but where we do have it, I think it's kind of important. All right, let's start with the top, up by the hat. Each one of these yellow dots is getting a white dot. On the opposite side, you put the black dot. All right, and then with a little bit of white on there, I just want to kind of make a little mess right there. All right, that'll indicate the highlight on the side of his hat. All right, in the eyes, in the eyeballs, you're going to have two little dots here. And these little dots are going to make his eye come alive. All right, two little dots there. Two little dots there. I'm going to put a little bit of white in the blue to show that it's actually shiny. Just a couple lines in the blue, all right? I think that looks cool. I like that. Keep that in there. Like we did the hair with the other colors, a couple streaks of white. That'll give us some nice highlights in that hair. Not a lot of paint on the brush. Let the canvas come through just like you did it before. All right? And then there's no rhyme or reason to this. I just like the way it looked. What I did is where you have the white, we left it down here. I actually made these little lines that came off of the white after the fact. I just thought they looked pretty cool. You don't have to do it on yours if you don't want. But I thought they were kind of neat. Just these little angular lines, for whatever reason, to me, gives it a little character and brings it to the end of the canvas. I think it's kind of fun. So I put those in there as well. All right, and that seems to be pretty much it. So, you know, take your time. You can always go back and rewind the video wherever you stand at this time to actually maybe fill in a little more or continue painting if you want. You know, I hope you had a good time doing this. Again, I'm Ron from Ron's World. This is Rockstar Paint Class. I'd love to see your portraits, so please post them to #RockstarPaintClass. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And I hope you guys join us again soon. Thank you.